Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Layla Ali continues to hint about a return to boxing. I'm getting multiple million-dollar offers. The world will know my answer and where I stand with boxing very soon. I'm going to answer that question on my time. Per Fox 5, DC. A potential arrangement between her and Clarissa would have amassed considerable attention if she had to go to Fox 5 in order to address it. Is she seriously thinking about coming back? I don't really think so. This fight between Clarissa and Layla has been a sort of hot-button topic for about 5 or 6 years now, and I know that because I've been making videos about it for about 5 or 6 years now. It would be quite counterintuitive of Layla to have waited this long to finally do it, that if she were gonna do it, she should have did it a long time ago, and a long time ago, it had already been a long time since she fought anybody. When this fight first starts to gain momentum, when people first start talking about it, Layla Ali's already in her early 40s.
Yeesh.
41, 42 years old, and already many, many years removed from the sport. Now, you're talking about a 47-year-old fighter, close to 50, that's been out of the ring for 18 years. That is close to 2 decades, ladies and gentlemen. That's close to 20 years.
Why?
So why would I, as a boxing fan, want to see a fight
Why?
between Layla and Clarissa? In all likelihood, Clarissa is gonna beat her because the deck is stacked against Layla.
Why?
It goes against everything that makes you watch.
Why?
Makes you want to watch a fight.
Why?
Watch a competition. I don't think it's going to be competitive. At this point, I think that Clarissa is too fast, too sharp, too young for a close to 50-year-old Layla Ali. What's the point? Why would I want to see that? It goes back to what I told you about the American boxing scene, that there are people out there, they don't want boxing to be a sport or a competition. They want it to be a drama, a scripted story, where the characters they like always come out on top. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Who likes Clarissa Shields?
The proponents of this circus, of this farce fight, the same proponents of Gervonta Davis' shenanigans. You know that it's the same crowd. The same crowd that is okay with Gervonta Davis not fighting his contemporaries, not having a rematch with Lamont Roach, and instead facing Jake Paul in a circus fight. The same people that are okay with that are okay with Clarissa calling out a 47-year-old Layla Ali. It's the exact same people.
One and the same.
And these are the people that don't want boxing to be a sport, a competition to them. Competition and competitiveness doesn't matter. What matters is that whoever they like comes out on top, irrespective of the context and what the circumstances are. Because if Layla Ali does come out of retirement right now, I can tell you, she loses to Clarissa. It's no mystery. They know she loses to Clarissa. So why do they want this? So that Clarissa can say she's the greatest woman of all times for beating Muhammad Ali's unbeaten daughter, even though she's 47, and even though she hasn't boxed in close to 20 years, they want to make it okay for Clarissa to say that. They don't care about the context. For a perspective, this is even more farcical. This is worse than what we just saw with Manny Pacquiao and Mario Barrios. Manny is actually younger than Layla. He's 46 years old and he was 3 years removed from the sport when he fought Mario. Layla's 47 years old, 18 years removed from the sport. In case you didn't hear it the first 2 times. 18 years. I think Clarissa wins the fight, but I wouldn't give her any credit for it. I mean, what are we talking about? Layla Ali going in cold with no tune-ups, off the couch, out the kitchen, into the boxing ring?
I wouldn't give Clarissa credit if Layla does get tune-ups. You're fighting somebody close to 50 years old.
What are we expecting from a boxer that's close to 50 years old? This is not competition for me. This is not boxing.
It's not sport.
It's names, for the sake of names. It's tantamount to Canelo Alvarez calling out a long-since retired Joe Calzaghe on the premise of his name and that he's still unbeaten. Pretty ridiculous, right?
Bear in mind that Layla Ali's been retired since before Joe.
Joe retired in 2009. Layla retired in 2007. What are we doing? I don't know if she's gonna unretire. I don't know if she's gonna do this, but if she does, I think she loses.
That's obvious. That's what makes it so silly to call her out. What are you calling out a retiree for?
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, a Twitter user that goes by the name Truth Over Narrative said, "Seems like a lot of fighters are losing their why. The sad state that boxing is in right now," to which up-and-comer Jalil Major Hackett said, "Guys are waking up and realizing that you can't take legacy to the bank." A sentiment I've heard many times.
An excuse.
We know who this is about. This is about Gervonta Davis cashing out with Jake Paul, having not faced the vast majority of his contemporaries, the young fighters like him.
We know who this is about.
But the way they frame it, as if it's an either-or situation, when we all know it's not. You can have both if you're willing, if you're brave.
You're able.
Though ability has a lot to do with it, ability that I don't think Gervonta Davis has. You see, for Gervonta, maybe for fighters like him, it's an either-or situation.
Him.
Choosing finance over legacy, because if you chose legacy, you would have got found out a long time ago. You came very close in your last fight, so for you,
Legacy's not an option.
it's not a real option for Gervonta. If he would have fought Vasyl Lomachenko in his prime a long time ago when they were both at 130, he would have got beat then. That's what that Lamont Roach fight tells us. You can't be a legacy fighter.
Because Loma would have beat you, Devin would have beat you, Shakur would have beat you, hell, maybe Teofimo. If you got to go through all this with a Lamont Roach, those guys are all a cut above him.
And there's a lot of people think he beat you. If he can beat you, so can they. At which point, you ain't got the option to be a legacy fighter because you're not actually good enough to be a legacy fighter.
And that's why you guys pretend that he has a legacy now.
That's why he gets called out, because there's a lot of people out there, they think, no, he doesn't. Don't tell me he's pound for pound. Don't tell me he belongs up there with Usyk and Inoue and Crawford and Canelo.
No, he doesn't.
You want to believe that he's cut from the same cloth as them, that he's just as good as them. That is your inferiority complex, his inferiority.
He's inferior to those guys.
So much to unpack when it comes to those four aforementioned fighters who don't treat legacy and finance as being separate. For those fighters, because they have the ability, it's symbiotic. They go hand in hand. That's what it's like for the real fighters, the really good ones.
They have both.
How Sugar Ray Leonard made all of his money. Roberto Duran. Even your idol, Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather told the younger generation that you can't take legacy to the bank, but he himself was a legacy fighter.
Yep.
A 5-division unified champion.
Or did you forget that the fight with Manny Pacquiao was for 3 of the 4 major titles at the weight?
Did you forget that he was a champion at 5 weights, getting into heated arguments with the likes of Brian Kenny over where he's ranked pound for pound? Floyd was clearly concerned with his legacy.
To the point he used to say he was better than Ali.
But this is the same Floyd that told the younger generation, you can't take legacy to the bank, you can't take belts to the bank. Then why'd you spend your entire career worrying about that stuff? It's almost like he told that younger generation to do the opposite of what he did so that they wouldn't surpass him.
Sounds like it.
And they believed him. They hang off of his every word, even though his actions say the exact opposite. You fought for belts. You fought your contemporaries. You fought in big, meaningful legacy fights.
The fight with Manny Pacquiao was a unification match where Gervonta Davis never unified nothing at any weight he ever fought. Floyd did. We all know Floyd made more money than you. You don't come close to his marquee value. Your pay-per-views don't come close to his.
Nope.
We don't even have to adjust it for inflation. $1 million with Cotto, $1 million with Mosley,
$2 million with Oscar De La Hoya, $2 more million with Canelo Alvarez, $4 million with Manny Pacquiao. Are you nuts?
Gervonta Davis's numbers don't come close to Floyd Mayweather's. There's a reason for that, and it's because in spite of what Floyd said, he himself was a legacy fighter. Javante never was.
They say it's about the bag for Gervonta Davis to justify his cowardice. They say it's about the money, but
You know that Floyd Mayweather was the highest paid boxer. I mean, in case you forgot, you know that, right?
where Gervonta never was. The most successful pay-per-view Gervonta Davis has ever been in was the one with Ryan in 2023. And in 2023, both Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua, and Jake Paul, they all made more money than Gervonta.
That was in 2023. Or for your biggest pay-per-view, the best you could do was come in at number 4.
Fast forward to 2024. The year that he fought Frank Martin, that was the only fight that he had that year, and he didn't even register that time. He wasn't even a blip on the radar.
What do you notice about all of the fighters that are there with the exception of Jake Paul? What do you notice? That 5 out of the 6 are legacy fighters. Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, Canelo, Anthony, Inoue.
You don't see Gervonta Davis though, do you?
And it's because to get there, to stay near the top at least, he would have had to have fought better fighters in bigger fights than fighting Frank Martin.
Now, to stay on a list like this, you would have had to fight Shakur or Devin or somebody, not Frank Martin. That's where he's different from Floyd Mayweather. When Floyd was active and Floyd was fighting, he was the #1 top-earning boxer in the sport of boxing. Gervonta Davis was never that.
I don't think he's gonna be. I think he's about to make a very big payday with Jake Paul in Jake Paul's circus.
But what does it say? That the only way for you to maybe get on a list like this safely is to fight in a joke fight, a Jake Paul fight. Bend the knee to Jake. Because if you tried to do it the traditional way, you'd get beat.
Oh, yes.
You'd get exposed. You're not what they made you out to be, and you know it.
If he wants to cash out, let him. Just don't try to convince me he's pound for pound and he's as good as Usyk or as good as Inoue. If he were
as good as Crawford or as good as Canelo, he wouldn't have to choose between legacy and finance. If he were as good as them, they would go hand in hand.
He's got to do things this way because he's not as good as them.
You see, boxers say things like what Jalil Hackett said, that you can't take legacy to the bank. Oftentimes because a lot of boxers, even very good ones, end up broken down and in the gutter. But it's not because of legacy, it's because of poor spending habits. It's because you're spending beyond your means. So when you stop making that money,
you're still spending it like it's no tomorrow. What do you think is going to happen? And that doesn't just happen to boxers. It doesn't just apply to them. It applies to anyone, everyone.
If you spend beyond your means, you're going to go broke. But you're framing it to where fighting for legacy is going to make you broke. For a lot of fighters, fighting for legacy is a reason.
It's what gives you something to even take to the bank.
He said guys are waking up and realizing that you can't take legacy to the bank. Tell Usyk that. Tell Inoue that. Tell Tyson Fury. Tell Canelo.
Tell Crawford.
It's a self-defeating mentality. Speaks to what I said in my previous video about today's fighters and their lack of morale. This is what they tell themselves to make themselves feel better, that they have to choose
the truth.
Some of you guys don't have a choice because some of you guys don't have the ability. Gervonta doesn't have it.
That's the truth.
Where our contrasting perspectives collide is you want us to believe that he has it, that kind of ability, but he's choosing finance.
You want us to believe that. You want to believe that, when in reality, no, he doesn't have the ability.
And thus, he chooses finance. And not even finance for the sake of finance. It's really the safest passage, the safest route. Because if it were about finance, well, fighting Shakur makes for a bigger fight than Frank Martin. Fighting Devin makes for a bigger fight than Frank Martin. Fighting Loma would have made for a bigger fight than Isaac Cruz or Romero.
It wasn't even finance for the sake of finance. What it really was about the safest passage, the safest route, the safest money. He is single-handedly one of the most manufactured fighters I have ever seen.
For that, you celebrate him, that he was able to make money all without taking a loss and without taking a risk. The con job. That's what you're celebrating. But who did you con? Not me, because I don't think he's any good.
If anybody got conned here, it's the people that think he's good. It's the people that support him. If you pulled a fast one on anybody, it was on them.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, I came across a tweet from Lady Chan, friend of the channel, who said that Romero says he's moving up to junior middle very soon. I think these fighters are beginning to feel completely depleting themselves is not conducive. Walking around at 190, but campaigning at 147 is diabolical.
A common practice in today's boxing world, really the industry standard, so few of these fighters walk around anywhere near at where they fight. They cut massive amounts of weight to have a size advantage over their quarry, to compete in divisions where they might have a height advantage or a length advantage, a weight advantage. The night of. That's what that is.
That's why so many fighters do it. And she's talking about Romero potentially moving up to junior middle on that premise. So soon after having arrived at welterweight, he's busting at the seams.
He just got there.
He needs to move up. Maybe that's a contributing factor to Rolly's potential ascent to the junior middleweight division, but I can think of at least one other reason why Rolly might want to move up now. He's WBA champion now, you understand that? He's got the WBA title, and with a WBA title, you get WBA mandatories. Before he even got that belt, before he won it or was elevated to that position, Shakram Gayasov of Uzbekistan was already installed as the WBA's mandatory challenger. He fought in the eliminators, he won the eliminators, currently he's unbeaten. He was in position to challenge for the WBA title before Rolly had it, when Boots had it.
He was in position to fight for the WBA title before Boots had it, when Stanionis had it.
He was in position, and now that same WBA title has changed hands 2 times. I'm gonna go ahead and say it now. I think a part of the reason Rolly might be thinking about moving up is because Shakram is on his tail, and enough step-aside deals have been reached, the title has changed hands enough times that it's time for Shakram to get a shot.
If they was to fight, Shakram would beat him. I don't have a doubt in my mind.
Look at how close and unheralded Ishmael Barroso came to beating Rolly Romero. Look at what Isaac Cruz did to him.
I can only imagine what Shakram would do. And Shakram is not one of these welterweights, one of these fighters that's often talked about. He's the kind of guy that sneaks up on you. The kind of guy that has a lot of ability, but not a lot of profile.
Rolly has more of a profile than him. That's how obtuse and arbitrary the boxing scene in America is.
A guy with next to no ability can have more of a profile than a guy that does. What is Rolly Romero's claim to fame besides the silly things that he says in interviews? That seems to be people's fascination with him, America's penchant for making stupid people famous.
What is his claim to fame?
I think it's that he beat Ryan Garcia.
Well, that says it all, doesn't it? Beating Ryan Garcia off a year-long suspension for a doping violation. Ryan, who did absolutely nothing in the welterweight division, beat him, and you get a belt. That is his claim to fame. That is the crown jewel, the crowning achievement on Rolly's CV, and that's how he became WBA champion. A part of it, what is also a contributing factor to a less vibrant boxing scene than we saw in previous eras, the powers that be at times, they don't let the real cream rise to the top. In protecting fighters like Rolly and affording opportunities to guys like Ryan,
you shortchange fighters like Shakram, who would beat them both.
But because he doesn't have as much of a profile as they do, you protect them. So guys like him don't get their opportunity, even though they're better fighters.
If Rolly is now thinking about moving up, I think Shakram has something to do with that.